This is Rogcast episode 14. We're here with Adam. Adam, tell us a little bit about the latest program you've coded. I've heard that it's got a lot of downloads on the iTunes store. Tell us a little bit about that.
So last night I read this book. It was really interesting. It was talking about pointers in C++, and basically a pointer stores an address to a space in memory for a variable, and they're really interesting things. I mean,
right, but how is this applicable to your program that you've coded?
Well, I use quite a few pointers in my program.
And what does the program do?
Oh, well, it does many things. You can't really sum it up in like what? How long are these things? An hour? You just can't do that. So I'm finished talking now.
So why has it got so many downloads on the iTunes store if you cannot summarize what it does in a sentence?
That's you hit the nail on the head there. That's all the reason you need.
All the reason I need for what? What do I need a reason for? I'm trying to ask you what your program does.
Well, you can't pinpoint what it does. It's magical.
You just said I hit the nail on the head, and I can't pinpoint it.
You pinpointed the nail on its little head. You knocked that sucker into the piece of balsa wood. You used a sander. You chopped some more wood up.
Okay. Back on topic. What is it programmed for? If you can't explain what it does.
It's programmed mainly for experimentation, really. I mean, you've got so many elements you can explore and work with and synergize and analyze and describe and explain.
Right.
And list characteristics and features.
Okay. And your marketing manager, Thwack Johnson. Thwack, tell us a little bit about how you've managed to market this to get so many downloads on the iTunes store. Fatal cocaine! There you have it. He does cocaine in order to market a program. Adam, what do you think about your employees using cocaine to market your products?
Well, when he says he does cocaine, really he's referring to the effect my program has on the unenlightened.
So it does have an actual effect, or some sort of.
Well, if you've got a program that does so many things, it's going to affect people. There's no way.
So it gives them a virtual high.
Well, yes, basically.
Okay, and that would explain why it has that many downloads on the iTunes store.
Well, that's I don't like to think, but yeah, basically.
Right, and Thwack, as marketing manager, I know you've been doing cocaine in order to market Adam's program, but what sort of audience are you targeting this towards?
We're going for about the 2 to 27-year-old marketing group,
right,
focusing specifically on the 5-year-olds and also the 7-year-olds, but more specifically the 24-year-olds, and in particular the 25-year-olds.
Okay, but if you'll just let me,
50-year-olds.
And so you're advocating cocaine use to 2-year-olds. Is that right? Is that right? What I'm saying?
I'm advocating a fun time for 2-year-olds is what I'm doing.
And Adam, do you think this is going to have a massive impact on the world, this program that you've created?
Well, it already has. I mean, you've got so many people influenced by this program. You've got Barack Obama. You've got Tony Blair.
And Tony Blair was actually condemning the program as being created by a sadist. How do you respond to that?
Well, some people just can't take just the sheer. You can't explain like.
No, I've gained that during the show. You can't explain anything about this program. In fact, the only thing I've gained about this program is that it gives you a virtual high. And this is Fergus, that my co-host, he's going to take over and do some...
Adam, I just have a question for you. You say you can't explain things, but I was wondering if
you could have a stab at your peculiar teacher-student fetish that we've heard rumors about.
No comment. I was informed this interview would be solely on the program.
Jack, you have something to say?
How do you explain? I have nothing to say.
Thanks, Jack. Very informative as always. Back to Abby.
All right, back to the interview. Vladimir Putin's statement that your app is actually a terrorist plot to undermine his government.
Well, first of all, I have to criticize his government for allowing Thwack to somehow change his name to Jack in about 2 seconds. But then I have to agree somewhat. I mean, you can't explain how the program can have such an effect. I mean, you just can't explain the explanations of this program. Like, if it doesn't have any cause and effect, it doesn't have, you can't...
Okay, but let's consider this. It does give you a virtual high. What sort of effect will this program have on the drug market? You're going to be putting lots of drug dealers and street kids out on the street. Well, they're already on the street, but out on the street in a worse condition. Like, what do you think about that?
Well, I think they deserve it, really, for selling drugs.
But you're technically selling drugs as well.
Yeah, but I'm a rich man, so it's different.
How is it different?
Because I'm rich.
But you're still selling drugs.
But I'm rich. That's...
They were rich until you possibly put them into bankruptcy.
But they weren't as rich. There's a threshold value of about 100 million, where being rich allows you to overcome the law in many respects.
Right. And Jack, what do you think about, you know, using maybe these drug people as, you know, part of your marketing strategy to sell the program and get these people on board?
I think it's an essential part of our marketing strategy. People peddling their wares on the street goes back to the times of ancient Rome. I'm going to be honest here, I have literally nothing to say on this topic, so every time you shove this phone in my face,
I think what Jack is trying to say is that
I have nothing to say.
I do cocaine! This interview has quickly deteriorated into nothing.
Back to me. Okay. So, Jack, you say you have nothing to say. What about on the subject of Satan? What are your beliefs about Satan?
As you can see, the interview that I started out with Adam, to see how a program worked, to see why it sold so much, has turned into a drug expose by a hardened journalist. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been a great work of expositive journalism. Oh my god, I'm being insulted.
Get out of my company!
So, that's end of Rogcast, episode 14. That's Patrick. Anyway, we're out.
Sorry.